Have you ever poured your heart into a painting believing that it was your best work yet, only to be completely rejected? This happened to me. I entered what I thought was my magnum opus into the most prestigious portrait competition in the world, and it didn't even get an honorable mention. But 4 years later, I won the Oil Painters of America gold medal with the exact same composition. The only difference? I stopped painting like a camera and I started painting like an artist. And in this video, I'm gonna walk you through exactly how I made that shift so that you can do that too. So if you have been feeling frustrated by your art, or it started to become tedious, like you're almost more of a glorified inkjet printer than an actual creative genius, well, I made this for you. And I wish I could go back in time and share this with my younger self. But the best I got is that I eventually figured it out. So I'm excited to be sharing it with all of you so that you can benefit and your art can benefit from this. As I dive in, I want you to know that you don't need to worry about taking notes on all of this, because I've actually put together an entire PDF where I walk you through everything that I'm going to share in this video in a really clear step-by-step format. So I've linked that in the description. Go ahead and get your copy so you can follow along with this as you watch this video. And I have a suspicion that it's going to be a really helpful thing for you to keep in your studio as well. That way, it's not just a one-time guide, it's actually going to be there to help you to make the key shifts in your painting practice on an ongoing basis that I made in mine that ultimately enabled this transformation. So for this video, you're going to see me create each of these paintings side by side. I'm going to have my original version that I made back in 2020 on the left, and the newer version that I created last year over on the right. Now I'm curious what differences you notice between these two. Feel free to let me know your observations in the comments. But before we go into the actual painting technique, I need to give you some more of this backstory. So after that initial rejection of my painting from 5 years ago now, I was crushed. I thought maybe I just wasn't cut out for this, or the kind of art that I was capable of making was art that just wasn't going to get a lot of traction. But I couldn't let go of this image. Something in that composition worked. And I knew this was still a great painting. Don't get me wrong. To this day, I have people who comment on both versions of this and just how much they love both. But this was really about me uncovering my artistic voice, and that's going to be the crux of what I share in today's video. So I didn't scrap this idea. I rebuilt myself around it. And here's exactly how I did it. First things first, I stopped trying to paint like a perfectionist. This was both something that happened in the moment at the easel, so I actively let go of this idea of capturing every detail from my reference material. But it was also a strategy that I brought into my painting practice as a whole. I realized that I needed to play the long game. There was no single exercise that would transform my artwork overnight. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of exercises that I use that help me to improve specific skills very quickly. But I wouldn't have succeeded if I told myself, all right, the next painting is going to be the one that wins me an award. No. I needed to take the long view and get away from that idea, that perfectionist idea that every painting needed to be unimpeachable. I needed to actually give myself permission to try and flounder and make mistakes and fail. I thought about that Julia Cameron quote from her book, The Artist's Way. She says in it, "It's impossible to get better and look good at the same time. Give yourself permission to be a beginner." And the truth is, as you can see from this painting unfolding on the left, I was not a beginner, but I had to embrace that beginner mindset. I had to be okay with failing. I had to be okay with looking bad, because the reality is that messing up is where you actually learn. And I realized there was a lot I wanted to learn before I would be able to paint the way I wanted to. And that meant that there were a lot of messy, failed paintings between these two particular compositions. I can't tell you how often I encounter painters who have these exact same kind of goals, but they're so concerned with their progress being linear and being able to make the A on every single painting the way they were taught to in school that they're afraid to really learn something. The reality is that as painters, we kind of have to get into the mud sometimes and make a mess. And that exploration where we really push the boundaries of what works and what doesn't, and we learn our own boundaries in terms of our capabilities, that's when we genuinely grow. And so I had to set up my painting practice to allow for that. And it's one of the very first things that I emphasize with every student I work with, that I am here to help you grow as efficiently and directly as possible. But part of that growth is inevitably going to involve some paintings that just turn out to be messes. And that's a part of the process we need to embrace, not something that we need to try and outperform or outsmart. So if you've been following my YouTube channel since back in 2020 when I made this first painting and posted it here on YouTube for the first time, you'll know that I've made plenty of messy paintings between now and then. Not every single one was having me grow in this linear fashion. It looked like this kind of sine wave with peaks and troughs and low points and breakthroughs. But the thing that allowed me to go on that journey and still have me growing in that process is that I was taking that long view and I was thinking about how to do this sustainably so I didn't push myself to the point of burnout with my art. So that sustainability in my journey and the eschewing of perfectionism was a huge precursor. But now we need to go into what the actual first step was for me. And that was for me to understand what my style actually was. And I needed a way to understand what my style looked like before I could actually paint that way. Now I break down the exact exercises for this in that freebie PDF. So I won't take 40 minutes to walk you through every step of this particular facet of the journey, but I also have YouTube videos on this and I have a free masterclass on this in addition to what you'll find in the PDF. So there are a lot of resources for you to do this for yourself, and I would absolutely make sure that you take the time to do this step because this step was pivotal. To illustrate why, I'm going to use a bit of a metaphor. So anytime we are working toward an ambitious goal, it doesn't matter whether it's in painting or it's something like dance or baking or music or something in our careers, doesn't matter the domain. In order for us to be able to achieve an ambitious goal, we need to know what that ambitious goal is. So I didn't set out with the goal of, I want to be an OPA gold medalist. I set out with the goal of, I want to be able to paint like this. So going back to this idea of a metaphor, it's a bit like playing darts, where reaching our goal is like hitting a bullseye. Well, if someone put a blindfold on you and spun you around a bunch of times and then put the dart in your hand and said, hit the bullseye, you would be lucky to even hit the board, let alone the bullseye, because you don't have eyes on it. And I realized that I was trying to take my art to the next level without having eyes on what that looked like. I've learned through doing this with hundreds of painters that this is a step that it's really easy to get completely stuck on or try to gloss over. And that's where we get really tripped up here. So here's what I have found works the best. For myself, I kind of stumbled through this process, but in working with so many other painters, here is what I now wish that I could go back in time and recommend that my younger self do. First things first, you got to go ahead and create a collection of all of the kind of artwork that you respond to and find a way to see it all in one spot. The point here isn't to be discerning or filter stuff out. It's just to find a place where you can put all of your favorite art down to create this kind of like central repository or master database of what you love and what you respond to visually as someone taking in art. I'll be honest, this should be a fun activity for everybody. I don't know any painter who isn't already quite good, who doesn't love looking at great art. So if you are wondering whether you're going to have what it takes to do this little exercise, this should get you really excited and be a good time, not like some grueling homework assignment. But obviously, just figuring out what it is that you love, okay, that's not enough. Like, a lot of us have a sense of what we love. The question is, what is our voice or what is our style? So here is what I have found is the easiest way to uncover that. So if you take a look at that master database of all of the paintings that you saved that you love, and you ask yourself, which of these are my absolute favorites? And you further filter it down by what medium are these in? Can I make sure that the ones that rise to the top for me are in the medium that I actually want to work in? And then you ask yourself, do I actually want to work in the technique or the process necessary to make this kind of work? So sometimes this involves a little bit of testing or a little bit of research, trial and error. But if you see somebody whose artwork you absolutely love, but you realize that those paintings take months to make, or they're highly detailed and meticulous, and that's just not how you want to work, it's better to filter those out. So what you should be left with by this kind of second step is a collection of paintings that are all in your desired medium, that all use a process that you would enjoy implementing for yourself, and they have the kinds of subject matter, composition, color schemes, lighting, brushwork, all of it that you really respond to. And if you compare this curated down collection of inspirational paintings to the original master database you started with, you should start to see patterns emerging. You should start to see what kind of brushwork you see over and over, or what kind of palettes or colors are being used, or what are the compositions like? Are they all like head and shoulders portraits? Are they all landscapes? Are they all full figurative paintings? What are you seeing time and time again? In my case, when I did this exercise for myself, I saw a lot of Sargent's and a lot of his contemporaries, artists who are very much influenced by him, artists who are working in a very direct application method for applying the paint, or they're working wet into wet, or they're working alla prima. These are all kind of related terms in case some of them sound more or less familiar to you. But the simple version is that what I saw over and over again were portraits, single figures with these kind of vignetted, abstracted backgrounds. And it made me realize that when I looked at the original composition that I made back in 2020, I had all of this extra background information. And that wasn't really what I wanted to be painting. What I wanted to paint had these sweeping brushstrokes. It had backgrounds that kind of felt more like studies or statements in design or a celebration of the paint itself rather than a celebration of all of the background detail from the original setup. And that was really the breakthrough moment. In fact, you can watch me have this breakthrough moment in real time on my YouTube channel because about a year ago, I made a video of me taking the reference from that original painting and showing you how I would adapt that reference based on my inspiration and where my style was headed. And originally, I was just going to do this for the sake of a YouTube video and breaking down my thought process. But the more I actually dove into that video that I was filming, the more excited I got about the painting itself. And thus, the second version that won the OPA gold medal was born. So if I had to break down the one change that allowed this breakthrough to occur, it would be getting clear on that goal style. But of course, it isn't quite that simple because nothing ever is. Once I had a really clear picture of what that goal style was, I still had to make sure that I had the skills necessary to actually paint that way. And this is another place where I see painters getting stuck a whole lot. Even once they do that first exercise, it's really easy to say like, all right, well, now I know what my taste is, what my style is, what my artistic voice is. But what, am I just supposed to sit down and paint like Sargent now? Obviously not. So this is, I would say, the secondary key breakthrough sort of moment was understanding that all of the gaps between the way you're painting now and the way you really want to be painting They can be broken down into really discrete, simple skills that you can just master one by one. So you don't get sucked into that trap of saying, all right, well, today I guess I'll just paint like Sargent and then my dreams will come true and I'll make a perfect painting that wins all of the awards and galleries will be banging down my door asking for artwork and people will just be saying, please take my money, I want your art. No, instead, I broke all of the gaps down into very specific learnable skills that I could simply practice one by one, and I designed my entire studio practice around that, building just one skill at a time. So learning how to simplify the breakdown of the facial features the way that Sargent would, aka simplifying the drawing, or getting comfortable with a different range of mark making that I was using before. So edge control or brushwork, or doing master copies to better understand and be able to replicate specific color harmonies that I saw come up over and over again in my goal or aspirational paintings. And if there is any one secret to being able to practice each of these things, like one simple exercise that I can essentially just tweak in order to help me build any one of these skills individually, it would be master study. So actually taking paintings from my inspiration board, regardless of when these paintings were made or which painters made them, and actually practicing trying to reverse engineer or replicate these for myself so that I could learn the muscle memory of the painters whose work I most admired. This, I think, is one of the unspoken secrets from all of the top painters that you love. They have spent so much time on things like master copy, you would not believe. If you were to go into your favorite painter's home, chances are you would find stacks of replicas of other painters' work where they are spending time deliberately trying to reverse engineer each of these specific skills, whether it's in drawing or value control or understanding certain color harmonies or getting different textures with their paint mixtures or control of their edges or learning how to reverse engineer the kinds of compositions that they love and imagining what would it take to create that kind of composition for myself, start to finish. If that sounds exciting to you or you're nodding along as you listen to this, go ahead and download that copy. It's free of the PDF guide that accompanies this video because in it, there are a ton of additional resources that help break down these concepts even further and that also link to specific videos or master classes that explore each one of these things even deeper in depth. Because of course, if I were to give you every single step, well, I guess that would be what I do when you work with me inside of my program, but it'd be difficult to fit into a single YouTube video. But I don't want you to keep spinning your wheels when there is a proven way forward. So there is one thing that I want to leave you on here as I wrap up both of these pieces, and you can see just how different they are as they come to a finish. I'll be honest, the biggest shifts for me, they weren't technical. They were in how I saw myself and how I saw my goal. I stopped asking myself, why can't I paint like that? And I started asking, what is one small skill I can master today that moves me closer? And as a natural part of that, I needed to know, moves me closer to what? So I hope that after you watch this video, you actually take the steps to understand what your unique artistic voice looks like. Again, I walk you through what you need to know in that free PDF, so don't worry, all the steps will be laid out for you, but don't hesitate because this is the biggest game changer I've seen for painters, whether they wind up working with me or they're just folks who encountered me in passing. I truly believe in the impact that this one change can make, and I'm really excited for the impact that will have for you in your painting journey. And I'll say for me, that's when my brushwork started to really breathe. That's when I was making work that would stop a juror and say, that's the one, because my paintings finally had life, not just accuracy. So don't wait until you feel ready. Don't buy into the belief that you're just a naturally tight painter or you're doomed to work in the style you're currently working in. Don't believe that you're one of those painters who just doesn't have a style or who just won't find it, because I've never seen a case where that is true. Expressiveness isn't a talent, it's a system. And when you follow it, you start creating work that not only looks good, it feels good. I hope this gives your painting practice a meaningful boost, not just today or this week, but in general. I can't wait to hear about and see what you create. And until next Saturday's video, happy painting.